Every day, ordinary people walk through these doors, with many not knowing how it was going to affect their lives going forward. For many, many decades, Sheffield Crown Courts was where justice was served and verdicts changed lives in an instant. Years after it closed, I had the opportunity to explore the building before it disappeared. And walking through the empty courtrooms, it was difficult not to imagine the stories that these walls had witnessed. Located at the Old Town Hall in Waingate, Sheffield, this building has been abandoned since the 90s. A new Crown Courts was built and this one was left to ruin. Sheffield City Council have served a formal repair notice to the owner to get this sorted ASAP. It was quite dangerous 12 years ago when we went in, and I can imagine, although the building is still there, it's not a place I would like to explore now. I've seen too many people have accidents in abandoned buildings because of rotten floorboards. So, you know, these places are very dangerous, and although I do like taking risks to get the shots, to get the photography and to document these places, I've done this one a few times and it's not a place I'd want to go back to, not with how dangerous it is at the moment. It will be due for collapsing if something doesn't happen to it soon, so it would be best to stay away. So the empty courts have been plagued by water ingress and vandalism for years. And although when we went in 2014, it was relatively untouched by vandalism, so there was no graffiti. It was just water ingress and weather damage and natural decay. I did see some photographs from about 4 or 5 years ago, and the vandalism, obviously, people had been getting inside and they just graffiti everywhere, which kind of ruins these places, but who am I to say who goes in and who does what in an abandoned building. So I'm glad I did document it when it was relatively untouched, so got to see the natural decay. The place is very extensive, very big place, and once you get in you're immediately met. If you go one way or another, depends on which part of the building you see first. If you go one way, you get to see the cells downstairs, and it's quite cool to look at, quite daunting as well, really, quite eerie. And the other way leads up into the courtrooms. A lot of courtrooms in this place, a lot of press rooms and judges' chambers. They're probably suffering the most of the judges' chambers. But very cool to photograph, especially if the light's right. I always go early in the morning before the sun comes up, and try and get that early sun beaming through the windows if you're lucky. You know what it's like in this country. So obviously some of the shots are better than others, but the natural decay is perfect. It's really what I photograph abandoned buildings for. The place is massive, and it was, when we went in, it's adjacent to a police station, so the banging and clattering that it took to get in the building, which was an old massive shutter door, and if you could climb right to the top, you could squeeze your way in through the top. So I'm not saying that so people go down, and that I imagine that access is long gone. But Sunday morning, police in the adjacent building, big multi-storey building, it's still attached to the courts, the Old Town Hall. All the offices, you can see people in their offices, and you're trying to be quiet getting over this shutter, and all you can hear banging, clattering, his legs banging against his shutter, and you're like, how is no one seeing this? It made a right racket. But anyway, that's what we used to do on a Sunday morning. Quick in, and we'd spend hours in there. The place is massive, and I went a few times, and I think I got pretty much every shot I needed to get. Apart from the tunnels, I don't believe. Now there is a shot where there's a gate to the tunnels. and I imagine that it was probably closed off after that because I didn't go any further. I didn't got any documentation from the tunnel, so I'm taking it, if it had been open, I would have probably wanted to go in there and have a look. But plenty to see, loads and loads of stuff to see in this place. Built in the 1800s, 1807 I believe. It's had its fair share of renovation done, extensions done, and I believe it was attacked in some political riots in the 1800s as well. So as the city grew industrially, the industrial expansion of the city, the building underwent massive renovations and expansions itself. So the subterranean tunnels were actually linked to the police station at one point, which gave easy transportation of the prisoners and secure transportation of the prisoners from the courtroom or the police station to the courtroom. They'd get tried, and then I would imagine they'd be led away to jail if the worst happened. Now, like I say, people's lives have changed in this place. It's not your average abandoned building. There'll have been a lot of tense and emotional days that would have played out in this place over the years, and you can feel it in the place. You know, it's quite somber. There's graffiti. The graffiti is from people who were held in there. Now, they didn't walk in with marker pens in a pocket, but it looks like they've got a lighter and they've burnt their names into the roof of the cells. Quite poignant really, because you don't know how many decades old these names are, and justice has been, I won't say justice is always served correctly, but people's lives will have changed forever. Maybe silly mistakes, maybe something far worse than that. This will have been one of the last places they saw freedom and maybe saw their families. So very poignant. Explore this, and it means quite a lot to me to show these images off, because like I said, the building is falling to bits now, and I did get to see it in its perfect abandoned state. Paint peel, green mouldy textures, you know, plaster falling off the walls. That's, for me, really is perfect. So don't explore abandoned buildings when they're brand new. You've got to wait really 5-10 years until they've really been left. Doesn't give you much scope for abandoned buildings these days. So if you do see a building that's just recently been closed, for me personally, I'd have to wait 10 years to even consider photographing it. So historically, this place would have been massive for the people of Sheffield. You know, it's not always been happy memories of this place, and imagine the people who came through there and saw their last day of freedom in there. It won't have been happy memories. It would have been, like I say, the last place that they saw family and friends. So I remember going in, the first time I went in, the place, like I say, was absolutely huge, and I can't remember how many courtrooms, but if I look at the photographs, there must be 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 courtrooms. The place is absolutely huge. And there's also downstairs holding cells as well, so like basement holding cells. So cells all over, so you can fathom how big this place was. Huge place, and it still is big when you drive past it. When you walk past it, it's very imposing. Old Town Hall, the old big clock that you know comes up out of the building. Keys left around, architectural plans left around. So really has just been 90s abandoned and locked up and left, and then obviously water and the weather's done its business, and now it is in a sad state of disrepair. Once again, thank you for following along and for watching these videos. I do have a website in the process of just being finished off, where there will be a gallery of all these pictures from the videos, the option to purchase prints. I do get a lot of questions about print sales and if prints are available. Yes, they are, but I'm just waiting for the website to be up and running. Also, there's a weekly competition now, so if you sign up below, there's a link to email subscription, and everyone who subscribes will automatically be put into a draw to win a exclusive signed print from one of these Yorkshire Explorers. As always, thank you very much. I will see you next week for another story behind the shots. Thank you very much, guys. See you later.